Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take a monumental figure, stack up all the sources, and give you the ultimate shortcut to understanding the true scope of their impact.
And today we're tackling someone truly colossal.
Absolutely. We're peeling back the layers on a life so influential, so relentlessly public, it really permanently redefined the concept of the celebrity athlete.
Huh?
We are diving deep into Muhammad Ali the Greatest.
And we are moving far beyond just the boxing rings here. I mean, the material you shared makes it clear Ali wasn't just about physical prowess. He was a cultural force, a political force, a spiritual one, too.
Mm-hmm.
He used that platform, that magnetic personality and the famous Louisville lip to basically compel the world to grapple with huge issues: race, religion, defiance, war.
That's exactly our focus today.
Hmm?
We want to understand the complex man beneath the myth, right?
Yeah.
To truly grasp his legacy, we have to track that whole journey of transformation.
It's quite a journey.
It really is. So our mission today is to unpack the critical turning points. That controversial conversion, the defiant stand against the draft that cost him his prime years, and how the political power of Muhammad Ali became, well, just as legendary as the athletic genius of Cassius Clay Jr.
Yeah, and we're going to explore how his journey redefined what a star could be, all grounded strictly in the sources you've provided.
It's an ambitious goal because he changed so dramatically over his public life, and the sources really allow us to trace that evolution pretty clearly.
They do. So where do we start? Louisville.
Let's start right there. Louisville, Kentucky, in the segregated South, and meet the young man who was not yet a champion. Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr.
Okay, so Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr., born January 17th, 1942. And you really have to picture the setting. Louisville back then was defined by strict racial segregation.
Deeply segregated. His father, Cassius Sr., he painted signs and billboards for a living.
Right, and his mother, Odessa, worked as a domestic helper. Different religious backgrounds, too, apparently.
Yeah, the father was Methodist, but Odessa raised the children Baptist.
And that environment, that segregation, it wasn't just background noise, it shaped him profoundly. The sources really highlight that the casual, pervasive injustice was very real to him.
Like that story his mother told about being denied a drink of water.
Exactly. A simple drink of water at a store, denied just because he was black. She recalled that it really affected him. It planted this early, deep seed of resentment against that whole racial hierarchy.
You can see how it would. And then as a teenager, he's facing the really brutal realities of the civil rights struggle head on, like the murder of Emmett Till.
Oh, absolutely. That had a huge impact. Till was murdered in Mississippi in 1955. Clay was only 13, and the sheer brutality of it just fueled this righteous frustration in him.
He reacted quite strongly, didn't he?
He did. One source mentions him actually vandalizing a local rail yard, just this outburst of rage and helplessness after hearing the news. He later told his daughter, Hannah, that nothing would ever shake me up more than the story of Emmett Till. So this isn't just a kid growing up. This is the development of a political conscience, already viewing the world through that lens of systematic racial violence.
It's fascinating to see how that early anger eventually found an outlet. And the way he got into boxing, it's almost like something out of a movie. The stolen bicycle.
It really is the classic origin story, isn't it? He's 12 years old, his bike gets stolen. He reports it to a police officer, Joe E. Martin.
Who just happened to be a boxing coach.
Exactly. And Clay swears he's going to whoop the thief. Martin famously tells him, well, you better learn how to box first.
And that was it, the spark. His rise in the amateur ranks was incredibly fast.
Phenomenal speed. He trained first with Martin, then later with Fred Stoner, who Ali himself credited with really molding his style, that speed, the footwork, the stamina, the whole system.
And the record shows it. Was it 100 wins and just 5 losses as an amateur?
That's right. Incredible record. And the absolute pinnacle of that was winning gold in the light heavyweight division at the 1960 Rome Olympics. He was already showing off that unbelievable hand speed and footwork that would become his trademark.
But that gold medal,
yeah,
it's tied to one of the most famous and maybe most disputed stories about Ali, isn't it? The whole throwing the medal in the river thing.
Ah, yes, the Olympic medal controversy. This is such a critical piece because it really shows the early construction of the Al myth, the persona.
So the story he told in his autobiography.
Right. In his 75 autobiography, he claims he gets back from Rome, goes into a whites-only restaurant with a friend, gets refused service, and in response to this, blatant segregationist insult, he goes and throws his Olympic gold medal into the Ohio River.
A powerful symbolic act. But the sources we have suggest Maybe it didn't happen quite like that.
Well, that's the thing. Several people close to him, like his photographer Howard Bingham, disputed the specifics later on. His biographer Thomas Hauser clarified it. Ali was refused service at a segregated diner. That part seems true. But he actually just lost the medal about a year after winning it. The throwing it in the river story? It seems that was more potent symbolically. It served the narrative of defiance better.
So the rejection of this symbol of white America's acceptance, that was the core truth, even if the details were embellished.
Exactly. It was about the meaning more than the literal event. As his friend Boondini Brown supposedly joked, Anki sure bought into that one. It became part of the legend.
And it makes that moment in '96 when he lit the torch at the Atlanta Olympics and got a replacement medal even more poignant.
A truly incredible bookend, yeah. So he turns pro right after Rome in 1960. Racks up a pretty impressive record, quickly 19-0 by the end of 63, right? Lots of knockouts.
15 KOs.
Yeah.
And already predicting the rounds. But it wasn't just the fighting that got attention, was it? It was the mouth.
Oh, the mouth. The Louisville lip. It was revolutionary in boxing. Nobody talked like that.
Where did he even get the idea to not just win, but to perform, to boast, to predict?
It was apparently a very conscious decision, inspired by a professional wrestler named Gorgeous George Wagner. Ali met him in Vegas back in '61.
Gorgeous George, really.
Yeah. And George's advice was pure showmanship. Talk big, make promises, create a spectacle. He told Ali it guaranteed paying customers. People would come hoping to see him win, or maybe even more, hoping to see him get shut up.
Huh. So Ali just ran with it.
Ran with it and amplified it 1,000 times. He basically invented this persona, the big mouth and a bragger, as he called himself. It was all about making himself the center of attention, the spectacle.
Which brings us back to things like that weigh-in before the Liston fight later, that crazy pulse rate. Was that real fear, or was it pure Gorgeous George performance art?
That's the brilliance of it, isn't it? The sources suggest it was probably a mix. He was young, he had nervous energy, sure, but he learned how to channel that, amplify it, turn it into this calculated chaos to sell the fight.
Always selling the fight. And around this time, he also links up with the trainer who would stick with him for pretty much his whole career.
Angelo Dundee. Yeah, he took over from Archie Moore around 1960. There's that funny story that Clay actually left Moore's camp, partly because Moore expected him to do chores, like washing dishes.
Seriously, he wouldn't wash dishes.
Apparently not. Speaks volumes about his personality even then, right? That sense of self-importance, resenting any kind of subservience. Dundee was different. He was more of a calming influence, focused on the boxing, the conditioning, managing the career, not trying to manage Ollie's politics or behavior.
A steady hand. But even with Dundee and the undefeated record, he wasn't completely untouchable in those early years. He got knocked down a couple of times.
Right. Against Sonny Banks and Henry Cooper, those were important learning moments, especially that Cooper fight in '63. Cooper dropped him hard with a left hook near the end of a round.
Saved by the bell, essentially.
Saved by the bell, and maybe by Dundee's quick thinking. There's the story Dundee might have deliberately made a small tear in Ollie's glove to buy a few extra seconds of recovery time while the refs sorted it out.
Wow, the tricks of the trade.
Indeed. And even a win wasn't always popular. After he beat Doug Jones in '63, the crowd apparently booed and threw stuff. He was already polarizing people, generating these intense reactions.
That polarizing effect, combined with being undefeated, really set the stage perfectly for that first fight against Sonny Liston in February '64. A real David versus Goliath matchup.
Ah, completely. The world saw Clay as this loudmouth kid. Liston was the champion, intimidating, fearsome knockout power, alleged mob ties, just terrifying. Clay was, what, an 8-1 underdog? Astronomical odds?
Huge. But Clay knew how to play the media game even then, that way in.
Legendary. Pure psychological warfare. He just went after Liston, screaming, calling him the big ugly bear, acting completely unhinged.
And that's where the pulse rate comes in, 120 beats per minute.
Yeah, more than double normal. Was it genuine panic? Was it calculated mania? Who knows? But the effect was undeniable. It created chaos. It destabilized things. He's yelling that someone is going to die at ringside tonight. Every camera, every eye was glued to him.
But the performance had to stop when the bell rang. He still had to face Liston in the ring.
And Liston came out exactly as expected, looking for that quick, brutal knockout. But Clay's speed, his reach, that unconventional movement, Liston couldn't land the big shot cleanly. And then, in the third round, Clay cuts Liston under the eye.
First time Liston had ever been cut professionally. Right?
First time ever. That alone must have shattered Liston's aura of invincibility a bit.
And then came that really bizarre moment in the fourth round. The blinding.
One of the strangest incidents in boxing history. Clay suddenly starts complaining he can't see. His eyes are burning intensely. He's yelling to Dundee, "Cut him off, I can't see."
What was it?
The speculation was, and Ali believed this later, that it was some kind of ointment used on Liston's cuts, maybe Monsel's solution that got onto Liston's gloves and then into Clay's eyes. Maybe deliberately, maybe accidentally.
And Dundee had to handle the crisis.
Right. Dundee famously refused to cut the gloves off, basically pushed Clay back out there, told him to run, keep moving, let the sweat and tears wash it out. Incredible corner work under pressure.
And Clay somehow survived those next couple of rounds.
Pure will, mostly blind. By the sixth round, though, his vision had cleared, and he was taking control, peppering Liston.
And then Liston just quits.
Doesn't answer the bell for the seventh round, claims a shoulder injury. And just like that, Cassius Clay, 22 years old, is the heavyweight champion of the world. A massive upset.
And his reaction was instant, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Rushing to the ropes, yelling at the reporters, "Eat your words! Eat your words! I am the greatest! I shook up the world! I must be the greatest! I'm the prettiest thing that ever lived!" Just pure, unadulterated triumph.
He didn't just shake up the world by winning, though. He used that instant, massive platform for perhaps the most radical transformation of his life. Cassius Clay Jr. effectively disappeared.
Immediately. Almost right after the fight, he publicly confirmed the rumors he had joined the Nation of Islam, the NOI. He initially took the name Cassius X, following their tradition.
Like Malcolm X.
Exactly. And then, soon after, Elijah Muhammad, the leader of the NOI, gave him his new permanent name, Muhammad Ali. And he immediately renounced his birth name.
Calling it his slave name. The sources explain his reasoning there.
Yeah, he pointed out he was named after Cassius Marcellus Clay, who was a 19th century white slave owner, although he later became an abolitionist. Ali said he wanted a free name, arguing that even as an abolitionist, the original Clay held onto white supremacy. For Ali, the name itself was a link to oppression he had to break.
Was the Nation of Islam leadership on board with him from the start?
Not entirely, no. Initially, they were a bit wary. Boxing, with its gambling and hype, wasn't exactly aligned with their strict doctrines. They kind of kept his involvement under wraps at first.
Until he won the title.
Exactly. Once he became heavyweight champion with that global spotlight, then they fully and publicly embraced him. Elijah Muhammad bestowed the name. Muhammad meaning worthy of praise, and Ali meaning most high.
And he instantly became their most visible, most powerful spokesman. That
Yep.
quote, "I am America. I am the part you won't recognize."
But get used to me. Black, confident, cocky, my name, not yours. My religion, not yours. My goals, my own. Get used to me. Just an incredible declaration of independence and black pride.
But that affiliation, that choice, came at a huge personal cost, didn't it? His relationship with Malcolm X.
A devastating cost. Malcolm X had been his mentor, hugely influential in his conversion. But by the time Ali publicly joined the NOI, Malcolm had already had his bitter split with Elijah Muhammad. The NOI leadership pressured Ali to cut ties completely with Malcolm.
Which he did.
He did, and Ali later said it was one of the biggest regrets of his life. Watching that friendship fracture under those political pressures, it's really heartbreaking when you read about it.
The controversies definitely didn't stop there. They followed him right back into the ring. The rematch with Liston in '65. The Phantom Punch.
Still one of the most debated moments in boxing. The fight's over in under 2 minutes. Ali lands this short, chopping right. Some called it an anchor punch, and Liston goes down. But it happened so fast, the punch wasn't obvious on first view.
Leading to immediate speculation.
Oh, yeah. Cries that Liston threw the fight. The context fueled it. Liston was known to have debts. The NOI had this intimidating reputation. Did Liston take a dive due to threats or to clear debts? Slow motion replay does show the punch landing cleanly, jarring Liston's head. But the controversy itself just added another layer to the Ali mystique.
And beyond weird finishes, Ali started using the ring as a platform for political punishment, almost.
This is where it gets uncomfortable for some people. The political edge turned kind of cruel sometimes. Take the Floyd-Patterson fight in 1965. Patterson refused to call him Ali and was critical of the NOI.
So Ali went after him verbally.
Relentlessly, called him an Uncle Tom. And in the fight itself, many observers felt Ali deliberately carried Patterson, punishing him, making it last 12 rounds before the TKO instead of finishing him earlier. It looked like showboating, like humiliation.
And the Ernie Terrell fight in '67 was even more pointed.
Even more so. Terrell also insisted on calling him Cassius Clay. Ali turned that fight into a brutal, prolonged lesson. He's dominating Terrell, hitting him, and yelling repeatedly, "What's my name, Uncle Tom? What's my name?"
Oof, that's harsh.
It was. The press was horrified. Sports Illustrated's Tex Mall called it a barbarous display of cruelty. You saw the NOI's separatist ideology, that rejection of assimilation, the scorn for those seen as accommodating the white establishment manifested right there, physically in the ring.
So this really intense mix of politics, religion, and boxing.
Yeah.
That was the backdrop for the single biggest stand he would take, the one that truly defined his life outside the ropes, refusing the draft.
Yeah, and the whole draft situation started somewhat ironically given his later stance. Initially, he actually failed the Armed Forces qualifying test.
Really? On what grounds?
His writing and spelling skills were below the standard. He later attributed it to dyslexia. So at first, he was classified 1Y, meaning fit for service only in a national emergency or war.
Which led to that fantastic quote.
"I said I was the greatest, not the smartest." Classic Ali.
But then things changed.
They did. As the Vietnam War escalated, the military lowered its standards in early 1966. Suddenly, Ali was reclassified 1A, eligible for immediate induction. The world heavyweight champion was about to be drafted.
And that's when he took his definitive stand, refusing to serve.
Unequivocally. He stated his primary objection was religious war was against the teachings of the Quran, as interpreted by the Nation of Islam, unless it was a holy war declared by Allah himself.
But it wasn't just religious, was it? His objection was deeply political, too.
Absolutely. And that's captured in his most famous quote on the matter. "Man, I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong."
Such a simple, powerful statement.
It cut right to the heart of it. And he elaborated, making the connection explicit. "Why should they ask me to put on a uniform and go 10,000 miles from home and drop bombs and bullets on brown people in Vietnam while so-called Negro people in Louisville are treated like dogs and denied basic human rights?"
Wow. He directly linked the foreign war to the domestic struggle for civil rights. That was incredibly potent.
Incredibly. It forced a confrontation with the hypocrisy of America fighting for freedom abroad while denying it to its own black citizens.
The reaction from the authorities was swift and harsh.
Immediate and severe. April 28th, 1967, he shows up for induction in Houston. They call his name 3 times. 3 times he refuses to step forward. He's arrested right then and there.
In the boxing world.
Came down like a ton of bricks. The New York State Athletic Commission suspended his boxing license that very same day. The World Boxing Association stripped him of his heavyweight title. His career was effectively over.
And then the legal hammer fell.
June 1967, he's convicted of draft evasion. Sentenced to 5 years in prison and a $10,000 fine, a huge amount back then. He stayed out on bail while appealing, but that began nearly 4 years of professional exile. 4 years right in his athletic prime.
Angelo Dundee's quote about him being robbed of his best years, it really hits home.
It does, but that sacrifice, willingly giving up the title, the money, the prime years, all for his principles, that shifted the whole conversation. It wasn't just seen as protest anymore. It was seen as deep, costly conviction.
And it resonated hugely with the anti-war and civil rights movements.
Massively. Figures like Al Sharpton said it had an energizing effect. Here's the heavyweight champion of the world, a global icon willing to lose everything. It gave immense legitimacy to both movements.
This period also led to a really significant moment for black athletes, didn't it? The Cleveland Summit.
Yeah, the Cleveland Summit in June '67 was crucial. You had major figures like Jim Brown, Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, then Lou Alcindor gathering with Ali.
What was the purpose?
Yeah.
To support him.
Initially, it was actually to question him, to gauge his sincerity. Was this real? Was it just another publicity stunt? But after hours of talking with him, hearing his reasoning, they came out and publicly announced their full support.
That must have been huge.
It was a landmark moment. It solidified the idea that prominent athletes had a right, maybe even a responsibility, to use their platform for social and political commentary.
So, unable to box, what did Ali do during those years in exile?
He basically reinvented himself as a speaker. He became a fixture on the college circuit, traveling the country, giving speeches. His main one was often titled "Black is Best."
Focusing on racial justice.
Entirely. Racial pride, black self-determination, critiques of the war, critiques of systemic racism. It kept him financially afloat, sure, but it also massively deepened his connection with the youth counterculture of the late 60s. He became a true icon for them.
And all this time, the legal battle is winding its way through the courts. It finally reaches the Supreme Court in 1971.
Clay v. United States. And the outcome is often misunderstood. People think the court vindicated his conscientious objector status based on his religion.
But that's not actually what happened.
No, it was much more technical, almost procedural. The Supreme Court overturned his conviction, yes, but they did it unanimously, 8-0. However, they explicitly avoided ruling on the merits of his claim. They didn't say his religious beliefs entitled him to exemption.
So how did they overturn it?
They found that the Department of Justice and the appeal board had improperly told Ali his objection wasn't valid because it wasn't based on belief in a supreme being in the traditional sense. And crucially, the appeal board gave no reason for denying his claim. The court said that since the board gave no reason, the conviction couldn't stand because it might have rested on that improper advice. Essentially, they threw it out on a technicality.
Clever legal maneuvering. It freed Ali without setting a huge precedent on religious objections during wartime.
Exactly. It was a way to acknowledge the process had been unfair to Ali without getting into the constitutional minefield of conscientious objection itself during the height of the Vietnam War's controversy.
No, we also have to talk about the darker side of this period. The intense government scrutiny he was under.
Oh, it was immense. And frankly, terrifying when you look at the documents now. We know Ali was a target of a top-secret NSA program codenamed Minaret.
What did that do?
It specifically monitored the international communications of Americans who were prominent critics of the Vietnam War. We're talking warrantless wiretapping on a massive scale aimed at dissenters.
And the FBI was involved, too.
Deeply. He was a major target of COINTELPRO, the FBI's infamous counterintelligence program designed to disrupt and discredit groups and individuals they considered subversive. The lengths they went to were extraordinary.
Like what?
The sources show the FBI got access to his records going all the way back to elementary school. They noted things like he enjoyed art class as a kid. It shows the level of paranoia, the perceived threat he represented just through his words and his stand.
How did this even come to light?
Famously, a group of activists broke into an FBI office in Media, Pennsylvania in 1971, strategically timing it around the huge anticipation for the first Ali-Frazier fight. They stole files and leaked them, exposing COINTELPRO and the extent of the surveillance against Ali and many others. It was a shocking revelation of government overreach.
So the conviction is overturned in 71. Ali is free to fight again. He'd actually returned conditionally in late 1970 in Atlanta.
Right, beating Jerry Quarry.
Right.
Then he beat Oscar Bonavena, which set the stage for that incredible era of heavyweight boxing: Ali, Joe Frazier, George Foreman. The clashes between those three defined the decade.
His comeback generated huge buzz immediately. Didn't Wilt Chamberlain challenge him? He did. Wilt the Stilt, the basketball legend. 7'1", 60 pounds heavier than Ali, massive reach advantage. It sounded like a potential disaster for Ali.
How did Ali get out of that one?
Pure Ali. The Louisville lip strikes again. They did a joint TV interview, and Ali just mercilessly taunted Chamberlain, shouting timber over and over, predicting the tree will fall. He basically psyched Chamberlain out of the fight.
No way.
Yep. Chamberlain eventually backed down, partly because the Lakers owner offered him a record contract on the condition he dropped the whole boxing idea. Ali dodged a literal giant.
Which cleared the path for the real showdown. Ali versus Frazier I, March 1971. The fight of the century.
And it lived up to the hype. Maybe the most anticipated fight ever.
Yeah.
You had Ali, the returning exiled champion, the symbol of defiance.
Against Joe Frazier, the undisputed champ who'd kept the division going, seen by many as the establishment's guy.
Exactly. And the rhetoric Ali used in the buildup was brutal. Probably the harshest trash talk of his career. He wasn't just predicting victory, he was attacking Frazier personally, attacking his identity, calling him an Uncle Tom, a tool of the white establishment.
Yeah, painting Frazier as the choice of the segregationists, the KKK even, claiming he, Ali, was fighting for the little man in the ghetto. It was incredibly divisive and deeply hurtful to Frazier, who had actually supported Ali financially during his exile.
That personal animosity fueled the fight itself. But the fight also showed the effects of Ali's time away, didn't it?
It really did. The 4 years off had cost him something. Frazier was relentless, that bobbing, weaving style, constant pressure, and a vicious body attack. Ali tried leaning on the ropes, covering up, hoping to tire Frazier out, maybe the early seeds of the rope-a-dope.
Could be. But it didn't quite work that night.
Not against prime Frazier. Frazier kept coming. He wobbled Ali badly with a huge left hook in the 11th, and then in the 15th and final round, another monster left hook put Ali down flat on his back.
First time he'd been knocked down like that.
As a pro, yeah. He got up, showed incredible heart, but the decision was clear. Unanimous for Frazier, Ali's first professional loss. A real wake-up call.
He then had another setback a couple of years later, in '73.
Against Ken Norton. Tough fight. Norton actually broke Ali's jaw. There's some dispute whether it happened early, like the second round, or late in the fight, but either way, Norton won the decision, Ali's second defeat.
But Ali, being Ali, he comes back,
Yeah.
wins the rematch against Norton, though it was a controversial split decision.
Right. Which then set up the rematch everyone wanted. Ali Frazier II in January 1974.
How did that one go?
Ali won a unanimous decision this time, but it wasn't without controversy either. There was a bizarre moment in the second round where the referee, Tony Perez, mistakenly thought he heard the bell and stepped in right when Ali had Frazier hurt and was pressing the attack.
Giving Frazier time to recover.
Exactly. Frazier's corner was furious. They also complained bitterly that Ali was constantly clinching, tying Frazier up whenever he got close or had Ali on the ropes. It wasn't the clean fight people hoped for.
But all of this, the losses, the controversies, the rematches, it was all building towards maybe the single greatest sporting spectacle of the 20th century.
The Rumble in the Jungle, October 30th, 1974, Kinshasa, Zaire.
Ali challenging George Foreman for the title,
Yeah.
and Foreman looked unbeatable.
Absolutely terrifying. Foreman was younger, stronger, maybe the hardest puncher the division had ever seen. He had destroyed Joe Frazier in 2 rounds. He'd destroyed Ken Norton in 2 rounds. Ali was 32, clearly past his absolute physical peak. He was a huge underdog again, 4-1. Almost nobody gave him a chance.
Howard Cosell famously thought Ali would be annihilated.
But Ali embraced the underdog role, didn't he? The pre-fight hype was vintage Ali.
Oh, completely. That's when he delivered that incredible poem. I wrestled with an alligator, I done tussled with a whale, handcuffed lightning, thrown thunder in jail. Pure magic. And he connected deeply with the people in Zaire. The crowds were chanting, Ali Boumaier, Ali Boumaier, Ali kill him. He turned it into his home turf advantage.
And then, the fight itself. He unveils the rope-a-dope. This wasn't just resting on the ropes, was it? No. It was a calculated, psychological, and physical masterpiece. He shocked everyone, including his own corner, led by Dundee, by deliberately going to the ropes early in the fight. He covered up, leaned back, let Foreman tee off on him.
Just absorbing punishment.
Absorbing it, yes, but strategically. Blocking punches with his arms, letting Foreman hit his body, areas less likely to cause a knockout, and all the while he's talking to Foreman, taunting him, whispering things like, "That all you got, George? They told me you could punch, George."
Well, Foreman is just unloading huge punches.
Huge punches, yes, but Foreman wasn't known for his stamina. Ali was banking on Foreman punching himself out in the heat and humidity. He was literally letting Foreman exhaust his energy reserves.
And it worked.
Perfectly. By the 8th round, Foreman was visibly tired, his punches losing their snap. Ali saw his opening. He exploded off the ropes with a flurry, a stunning 5-punch combination that sent Foreman crashing down. Knockout. Ali had done the impossible again. He was heavyweight champion for the 2nd time.
The scale of that event, wasn't it watched by like 1 billion people?
Estimated 1 billion viewers worldwide, yeah. The most watched live television broadcast in the world up to that point. It cemented Ali not just as a boxer, but as a global phenomenon.
An incredible triumph. But the epic trilogy with Frazier wasn't quite finished. There was one more chapter, maybe the most brutal of all.
The Thrilla in Manila, October 1st, 1975. Ali versus Frazier III, this time in the Philippines.
And the conditions were extreme.
Unbelievably harsh. Temperatures near 100 degrees Fahrenheit, suffocating humidity inside the arena, and the fight itself was just war. 14 rounds of relentless back-and-forth punishment. Both men absorbed incredible blows. Ali used the rope-a-dope at times. Frazier kept boring in with body shots and hooks.
Ali started to take control late, though.
Yeah, in the later rounds, Ali's punches started taking a terrible toll on Frazier. His eyes were swelling shut. Ali landed some huge shots in the 13th and 14th rounds.
Until Frazier's corner stopped it.
Before the 15th and final round could start, Eddie Futch, Frazier's legendary trainer, made the decision. Frazier could barely see. Both eyes were practically closed. Futch told him, "Sit down, son. It's all over. No one will ever forget what you did here today." Ali won by TKO.
But the cost? Ali himself said it was the closest he'd come to death.
He did. He collapsed from exhaustion after the fight was stopped. He later confessed, "It was the closest thing to dying that I know. The sheer brutality of it stayed with him." Sources say he rarely, if ever, watched a tape of that fight again. Why would he want to relive hell, as he put it?
Even after Manila, even after that level of punishment, Ali's career wasn't over. He went on to achieve something no heavyweight had done before.
Win the title a third time. He lost it in a surprising upset to Leon Spinks in early '78. Spinks had only had 7 pro fights.
Quite the shocker.
Huge shock. But Ali being Ali, he demanded an immediate rematch, got himself in better shape, outboxed Spinks over 15 rounds later that same year in New Orleans, and won the title back. First man ever to win the heavyweight championship 3 times.
He retired after that briefly,
Yeah.
but then came back again.
He did retire in '79, but financial pressures reportedly pulled him back, and that led to the really difficult, tragic end to his fighting career. The fight against Larry Holmes in 1980.
Holmes was his former sparring partner, right? And the champion at the time.
Yes. And Ali just wasn't the same fighter. It was painful to watch. He was overweight, slow, and the sources mentioned clear signs of physical deterioration were already visible. The slurred speech, the trembling hands.
Holmes dominated him.
Completely. Holmes was clearly holding back at times, not wanting to hurt his idol too badly. But after 10 one-sided rounds, Angelo Dundee had seen enough. He stopped the fight in the corner. It was the only time in Ali's entire career that he lost by stoppage.
That quote from Sylvester Stallone at ringside, it sums up the feeling, doesn't it?
It really does. Stallone said it was like watching an autopsy on a man who is still alive. Just devastating to see the decline of such a magnificent athlete.
He fought one last time after Holmes.
Yeah, a final fight against Trevor Berbick in the Bahamas in 1981, lost a 10-round decision, and then finally, he retired for good.
And it wasn't long after retiring that those physical signs became a formal diagnosis.
1984. Diagnosed with Parkinson's syndrome. Naturally, there was immediate speculation connecting it to his boxing career, to the cumulative head trauma, especially from brutal fights like Manila.
Did Ali accept that link?
He and his doctors often disputed a direct causal link being definitively proven, though the connection seems plausible to many. But Ali's personal perspective on the illness was quite different.
How did he view it?
He framed it spiritually. He saw it as a trial from God. He said things like, "He gave me this illness to remind me that I am not number one, he is." He found a way to accept it, not as a punishment, but as a test, something to humble him and deepen his faith.
And that faith seemed to fuel a renewed focus on his role outside the ring as a humanitarian.
Absolutely. The People's Champion really came into its own in his later years. He traveled tirelessly, became a UN messenger of peace, undertook some incredible missions.
Like the trip to Iraq in 1990.
Remarkable story. Right before the first Gulf War, Saddam Hussein was holding foreign nationals as human shields. Ali flew to Baghdad, met with Saddam, and successfully negotiated the release of 14 American hostages, using his global fame for direct humanitarian diplomacy.
He was involved in other political actions too, wasn't he? Like the Olympic boycott.
Yeah, he played a role in convincing Kenya and some other nations to boycott the 1980 Moscow Olympics in protest of the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. He used his influence consistently.
And his charitable giving was immense throughout his life.
Massive. Millions donated, often very quietly, without fanfare. Supporting hunger relief efforts, worldwide estimates say helping feed over 22 million people. And it wasn't just later in life. The sources note that back in 1967, during his exile, he was the largest single black donor to the United Negro College Fund. That commitment to giving back was always there.
We should also track his spiritual journey. We started with the Nation of Islam, which was very specific, very political. How did that evolve?
It evolved significantly towards a more universal understanding of Islam. In the mid-1970s, after Elijah Muhammad died and his son, Warithuddin Muhammad, began moving the NOI towards mainstream Sunni Islam, Ali followed that path. He formally converted to Sunni Islam.
Moving away from the black separatist ideology.
Yes, embracing the broader, universal tenets of Sunni Islam. This shift was deepened by his travels, particularly his pilgrimages to Mecca.
He went on the Hajj.
Twice, according to the sources. Once in 1972 and again in 1988. Those experiences reportedly had a profound impact, reinforcing that sense of universal brotherhood within Islam.
And his later statements reflected this broader tolerance, especially after 9/11.
Absolutely. He was very quick and very forceful in condemning the attacks and distancing Islam from the terrorists. He made public statements emphasizing that Islam is a religion of peace and calling the attackers racist fanatics who call themselves Muslims, people who had perverted the religion.
He even explored other aspects of Islamic tradition later on.
Yeah, his 2003 autobiography, The Soul of a Butterfly, mentions his growing interest in Sufism, which is the more mystical, contemplative branch of Islam. So a continuous spiritual evolution throughout his life.
Finally, we have to touch on his unique cultural footprint. beyond boxing, beyond politics.
He was a cultural force unlike any other. Many people, quite seriously, identify him as a key precursor to hip-hop, maybe even the first rapper.
Because of the rhyming and boasting?
Exactly. The freestyled rhymes, the boasts, the spoken word poetry he delivered before fights. Think of the Rumble in the Jungle poem. It had the cadence, the swagger, the wordplay that would become central to hip-hop. He even released spoken word albums back in the 60s, one of which, I Am the Greatest, was Grammy nominated. Artists like Chuck D, Jay-Z, countless others cite him as a direct influence.
And then there's that unique detail about his Hollywood star.
Right, the only star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame that isn't on the sidewalk. It's mounted vertically on a wall next to the Dolby Theater entrance. It was Ali's specific request. He didn't want the name Muhammad, which he shared, of course, with the Prophet Muhammad, to be walked upon by people. A powerful statement about the primacy of his faith, even in the heart of Hollywood.
And his hometown, Louisville, has honored him in a very significant way.
They have. In 2019, they renamed their international airport the Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport. And the logo they created is fantastic. It's Ali's silhouette, arms raised in victory against the backdrop of a butterfly.
Float like a butterfly.
Sting like a bee. It perfectly captures his essence. And you look at the boxing accolades alone. The only 3-time lineal heavyweight champion, Sports Illustrated Sportsman of the Century, more Ring Magazine Fight of the Year awards than any other boxer. The legacy is just immense on every level. #outro.
What an incredible life. Looking back over this deep dive, the story of Muhammad Ali really feels defined by that unavoidable link, that synergy between Cassius Clay's athletic genius and Muhammad Ali's political and spiritual defiance.
You can't separate them.
He didn't just win titles. He used the platform those titles gave him, and even the loss of those titles during his exile, to force America, and the world really, to confront fundamental issues of race, war, and religion.
Absolutely. And his defiance, particularly refusing the draft, it fundamentally changed the expectations for athletes. It wasn't just about being great at your sport anymore. He showed that having that platform meant you had a voice, maybe even a responsibility, to speak out.
Even at tremendous personal cost.
Tremendous cost. Losing his prime years, facing prison, enduring that intense government surveillance we talked about, the FBI, the NSA. It shows how threatening his principled stand was perceived to be by the establishment.
It's also this powerful journey of constant evolution, isn't it? From the sometimes provocative, separatist rhetoric of the Louisville Lip, influenced by the early NOI,
Right.
to the global humanitarian figure embracing universal tolerance within mainstream Islam and even Sufism later in life.
And that very transition, that arc from a fierce, sometimes divisive adherence to a specific group's teachings towards a much broader, more universal message of tolerance and philanthropy. That's maybe the perfect final thought for you, the listener, to consider. We've traced Ali's journey. Think about that tension in his life, the evolution of his convictions as he aged, gained experience, faced adversity, and saw more of the world. What can Ali's life teach you about how deeply held beliefs can evolve, how public identity shifts, and maybe how we reconcile our earlier selves with who we become later? It's about personal growth, played out on the biggest stage imaginable.
A really compelling question to ponder. Thank you for joining us on the deep dive. We'll see you next time.